Welcome to this explainer. You know, it's pretty wild to think about, but sandy soils cover over 16 million hectares of agricultural land in Australia alone. If you've ever tried to grow a garden in those conditions, you know the struggle intimately. But today, we are going to transform your frustrating, dry, sandy yard into a fertile, highly productive landscape using some truly science-backed techniques. Stick with me, and you'll discover exactly how to get that lush, productive garden you've been aiming for. Let's start with a frustration I think we can all relate to. Is your garden acting like a giant sieve? You carefully water a plant, and literally minutes later, the soil is bone dry again. The water just drains right through. And the worst part is, it takes all your hard-earned fertilizers and nutrients right along with it. It leaves your plants thirsty and completely starving. It's an uphill battle for sure, but it is absolutely one we can win. Check out this statistic. The typical organic matter found in sandy soils, like those notoriously difficult ones over in Perth, hovers at a mere 1%. Now contrast that with the ideal 5% you really need for a thriving vegetable garden. That massive 4% gap, that's exactly why your soil is struggling, and closing that gap is our primary target for amendment. So, here is our roadmap for today's explainer. 1. Understanding sandy soil. 2. Essential soil amendments. 3. Application and soil health. 4. Watering and problem solving. And finally, 5. Selecting the right plants. We're going to go from understanding the microscopic villain to selecting the perfect plant heroes. Section 1. Understanding sandy soil and the science of sand. In the epic battle of sand versus clay, the core issue really just comes down to structure. Sand is made up of relatively large, smooth particles with massive gaps between them, which leads to that rapid drainage we talked about. It also has what we call a very low cation exchange capacity, or CEC, which basically means it physically cannot hold on to nutrients. Clay, on the flip side, features tiny particles with a very high CEC. It acts like a microscopic sponge, gripping onto both water and food. Now, if you aren't absolutely sure what type of soil you're working with, try this simple DIY sausage test at home to instantly figure out its texture. Just dampen a handful of your soil, roll it into a sausage shape in your hands, and give it a gentle squeeze. If it just crumbles into individual grains instead of holding its shape, well, congratulations, you're officially dealing with sand. Moving right along to Section 2, Essential Soil Amendments and Building Better Dirt. Choosing the right amendment means we really need to take two distinct paths at the same time. On one hand, you've got mineral clays like calcium bentonite. These add permanent structure and act as a heavy-duty moisture sponge. But on the other hand, organic matter, like compost and biochar, is what builds the essential microbial habitat. The secret is you truly need both of these together to turn lifeless sand into rich, working soil. Let's talk a bit more about those incredible organic options. Biochar is this highly porous carbon that creates stable, lasting homes for beneficial microbes. And the best part is, it won't wash away. Then we have coir, which is made from coconut fiber. It actively absorbs moisture, vastly outperforming dry peat moss. Peat moss can actually repel water once it gets bone dry, not to mention it's often harvested in pretty environmentally destructive ways. Coir and biochar, they act like long-term sponges right down at the root zone where your plants need it most. Section 3. Application and Soil Health. Let's look at some practical techniques. All right, here is your step-by-step battle plan for fixing bare ground. First up, spread your clay or compost evenly across the surface. Second, you want to till it deep. We're talking about 8 to 12 inches down, because that is the crucial root zone where your plants are actually feeding. Third, and please do not skip this step, water the area thoroughly. This forces the clay particles to swell up and fully integrate into the sand's structure. To actually maintain these improvements over the long haul, you have to continuously feed the soil ecology. Get this, organic matter in sand decomposes incredibly fast. We're talking up to 70% disappearing in just the first year. So you need to regularly add compost, use cover crops, and apply really generous layers of mulch. It takes roughly 3 to 5 years to build up stable humus. And hey, if you want nutrient-hungry veggies right now, just use raised beds to bypass the sand entirely while you're taking the time to build up your native soil. Section 4. Watering and problem solving. Keeping it moist. So a major villain you're likely to encounter here is hydrophobic soil. This is a highly frustrating condition where the sand quite literally pushes water away. After a long period of hot, dry weather, the surface of your soil starts acting like a plastic sheet. You water it, and the water just pools on top or runs off the sides, never actually penetrating down to the roots where it belongs. To troubleshoot this hydrophobia, you're going to need some specific strategies. First, apply organic wetting agents to break that annoying surface tension. Incorporate biochar to hold moisture beneath the surface, and use thick organic mulches, like wood chips, to help cool the soil. Finally, think about installing a drip irrigation system. This makes sure moisture penetrates slowly and deeply, rather than just evaporating straight off the top. When you're dealing with sandy soil, timing your watering is absolutely everything. Watering when the sun is low, like early in the morning or late in the afternoon, prevents instant evaporation. If your sand is still extremely porous while you're in the middle of amending it, you'll want to rely on shallow, frequent drip irrigation to keep that root zone consistently hydrated without completely washing away your nutrients. Section 5. Selecting the right plants, because believe it or not, some things love thriving in sand. Root vegetables are absolute superstars for this environment. Carrots, radishes, and garlic will effortlessly push deep into the uncompacted sand. Because there's no heavy, dense clay to resist their growth, they form perfectly shaped crops. Plus, the incredibly fast drainage prevents root rot, and the natural acidity of sand can actually help prevent annoying diseases like potato scab. Your warm season favorites, think tomatoes, cucumbers, and peppers, along with long-term perennials like asparagus, also really love sandy soil. Why? Because sand warms up incredibly fast in the spring, which triggers early and vigorous growth. Just remember one thing, because it drains so fast, these heavy feeders require you to provide regular feeding and heavy mulching to support their fruit production. Now, if you want a stunning landscape that is also super low maintenance, look no further than Mediterranean herbs and native flowers. Plants like lavender, artemisia, sedum, and black-eyed Susans are incredibly drought-tolerant and perfectly adapted to fast drainage. In fact, these plants actually prefer poor soil and will naturally thrive on just a little bit of neglect. Okay, before you run out and start ordering literal truckloads of clay and compost, I do need to give a quick professional disclaimer. Always consult with a local agricultural extension service or a regional soil expert. You really want to ensure you are applying the right, safe fixes that are specifically tailored to your local climate and environmental conditions. With these techniques in your back pocket, that barren, frustrating sieve of a yard is now packed with massive potential. You know exactly how to add clay to hold water, organics to feed the microbes, and how to pick the plants that will absolutely thrive. Which really just leaves one exciting question to answer. Now that you have the power to transform lifeless sand into rich soil, what are you going to grow first?